Hey family, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jo Murdock, aka Flowwj0. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. In today's Yoga Talk video, we are finally getting into a conversation around contracts. Yoga contracts, fitness contracts, wellness contracts, whatever you want to name it, whatever you want to call it, we're getting into contracts. The three contracts I'll be getting into in this video are non-compete, filming agreements, and training creation. Grab a cup of coffee, tea, get comfortable, pen and paper, take some notes, and I'll see you in just a little bit. All right, let's jump into it. No matter if you're teaching for a yoga studio or you're filming for a virtual platform or creating yoga teacher trainings because you are on a yoga teacher training team, you want to make sure that you are reading your contracts. I want to start off this video by saying it does not matter how nice or how welcoming an institution or a business is or may seem. Read the contract. Contracts are put in place for very specific reasons, and sometimes they do not benefit all parties involved. And once you sign it, I mean, you've signed it, right? Which means you've agreed to it. So absolutely read the contract, no matter what, no matter how you're feeling, no matter what you've heard from other folks, read it front to back. And I would also go as far as to say, give it to someone else you trust to read it front to back, or a lawyer. Two eyes to a contract, any contract, but absolutely never sign a contract without reading it front to back. Get a highlighter, get a pen, take notes. Let's start off with non-compete contracts. These are pretty popular, especially in areas that are saturated with yoga studios, New York City, for example. And so they can be great for both parties involved. They can also really put the yoga teacher in a pretty challenging position. So if you're not already familiar, a non-compete contract basically states that you are not allowed to teach at another yoga studio or wellness establishment for a few different reasons and in a few different ways. Some of those can be, you're not allowed to teach at another yoga studio within a 6-mile radius. Another version of a non-compete could be you cannot teach for 6 months if you decide to leave at these specific yoga studios, and the contract might name them. And that could be because those yoga studios are fairly similar in the format that they teach or what they offer. And so if you've been invested in as a yoga teacher at this place and they trained you and you end up leaving, for 6 months, you are not allowed to then go teach at this other place that's fairly similar, because they're getting you kind of like straight out of the oven, hot and ready and good to go. They don't have to put in the work that this studio put in. This can also be used in a virtual space. Some studios might say that if you are teaching online classes for them, you cannot teach online classes for anyone else, period. And that could be just during the contract, which is why you have to make sure you read it. It could also be, if the contract is for 1 year and the year is over, there's still maybe 1 more year after that that you cannot teach for another digital platform. If your non-compete says that you cannot teach at another yoga studio within a certain number of miles, like radius, if that yoga studio that gives you the non-compete only offers you 2 classes, can you survive on those 2 classes? Is that going to be enough money for you? And are you willing to travel 6+ miles to another yoga studio to pick up more classes if it's not enough money for you, right? So you might really want to work at this studio, but they are making it challenging for you because of this non-compete to actually pay your bills, to put food on your table. In addition to that, you might not have a car, or it might be time consuming to then travel to another yoga studio to make up that money to pay your bills and to put food on the table, but it takes you an hour to get there because it is 6 miles or more away. Another example in the virtual space, and this is from lived experience, as y'all know, I have a YouTube channel, and I did have conversations with a virtual platform maybe about a year ago now, that made it very clear I would have to shut down my YouTube channel because I have all these yoga classes, barre classes here in order to work for them. Okay, so that was very clear, very upfront in the contract, and that was a moment for me to sit down and think about, that I would have to give up something I've been working on since 2020 to invest in and work with this company and this brand. So non-competes, again, they can be great and they can help both parties involved. What I've seen and what I've experienced, that's not always the case. Most of the time the yoga teacher suffers. What I will say is this virtual platform, they were offering a substantial amount of pay and support and kind of guidance with my career. And so some folks may have said, yeah, I can get rid of that YouTube because what you're offering on the other end benefits me, supports me, and will change the trajectory of my future, right? So another thing to keep in mind, like if I sign this non-compete, is it hurting me in the long run? I'm gonna have to wait 6 months before I can audition at another studio, or I'm going to have to take down something that has brought me joy, that I created, that I built from the ground up. Just keep that in mind. A couple of things to consider and question for yourself when you get into a situation where you might need to sign a non-compete is just check time lengths. How long does this last? Is it only while I'm with you? Does it take place after leaving the company? So just check all of your time frames. And also look in the contract or email the person back with a direct question. Is this just yoga? Because some of us are certified in other things. So can I not teach at another yoga studio within 6 miles? But can I teach at a barre studio that's across the street? Is that okay? Is that gonna also be a problem? Because then I can teach yoga there, I can go across the street, teach barre there, and I'm hopefully making enough money for myself to survive, and I'm not breaching the contract. We're good over here and I'm good over there. So just some things to keep in mind and some questions that you can ask. Let's get into filming agreements. Okay, so I've had a few of these throughout my career. I have filmed content for Y7 Studio Online. I have filmed content for Lululemon's The Mirror. I have filmed content for glow.com. And of course, I film content here on my YouTube channel. Okay, so filming agreements, if you are getting into the virtual space to teach yoga, and again, I'm just talking about yoga, but I'm sure you'll see these contracts in other formats as well. If you are getting into that virtual space to be teaching a wellness offering, you also need to make sure and understand that things on the internet live and last pretty much forever, unless you have a team like Beyonce where they can scrub the internet of things that you do not want. Once it's out there, it's out there. You do not know who has copied it. You do not know who has recorded it. You do not know who has downloaded it, okay? So be mindful of that. When you're getting into a filming contract for the virtual space, and honestly, I mean, I don't know where else they would use it. Maybe they're filming it to just use in office or in hotels, for example, whatever. If it's happening here and it's being recorded, some questions to ask. How long do you have the rights to my contract? Very important, because it can be forever. They can absolutely write that in the contract where it's like, we have it. We can do with it whatever we want, whenever we want. We can use it in multiple different ways. It is ours. The second thing to ask, are your rights exclusive? So once I film this yoga class for you, does that mean I cannot use this yoga class on my YouTube? Does this mean that I cannot use my yoga class and sell it on my website in a package deal to my members, to my community? And then lastly, will this content be monetized? And then what am I getting from that? And when I say monetize, I mean, are you tracking the revenue that comes in based off of how many views, how long it's watched for, are there likes or comments on that video, things like that. How long will it be monetized, if it will be monetized? So I can't get into the specifics of which brand had this in their contract, because most of those also come with like an NDA. But generally speaking, you know, I'm not gonna pinpoint who they are, but I've had contracts where if I shoot a yoga video and it goes on their platform, I will make money off of that video for 2 weeks, okay? After 2 weeks, I do not make any more money on that video. However, they do get to keep that video and it goes into their library. So a member who's been with that platform for 5 years can find my video and do it. And someone who just joins today can find that video and do it. However, once it goes live 2 weeks later, however many people watch it, like it, comment on it, I will get paid from that. Okay, and for some folks that might not make sense, right? For some folks, they want to be able to get paid whenever that video is watched, every time that video is watched. So things to think about, things to keep in mind. I've also had contracts where I get a flat rate to film a video, and that is it. And yes, they do keep the video and it stays in their library forever. So check that price point. Does this make sense? Are you happy with this one-time flat rate to shoot this video? It could be a 15-minute class, it could be a 75-minute class, and maybe the price points are different. That can always be negotiated, yeah? Whenever you get a contract, I feel like I should have said this in the beginning, but whenever you get a contract, you should negotiate if something doesn't feel right. No one says you can't negotiate. That's why the word exists. That's why the thing exists. Negotiate, give the reasons why. And of course they can say no, but so can you. What I also want to say about filming agreements is the teacher, you, getting credit for what you've done. So are they going to somewhere on the website or somewhere attached to that video have your website, have your Instagram handle, have your full name so people can Google you? Or are you just another teacher on the platform and instead they highlight the name of the class or the theme of the class, not so much your name, the teacher, the one who created it and the one who is teaching it? Those things are important, y'all. You can be on platforms, you can be on billboards, you can be in photo shoots, but if they are not saying your name, if they are not attaching ways in which people who view this content can get in contact with you, I personally do not think it's worth it, because who the heck is this? And how am I gonna find them if I'm intrigued or if I'm inspired by their work, right? So these are questions to ask. Okay, cool, you're gonna own this video forever, but on each of my videos, will there be my name? Will there be my website? Will there be my Instagram handle? And for you, it might be other things that you want them to have, but I need to make sure that if people like me on your platform, they can find me off of the platform, because contracts end. Nothing lasts forever, okay? The contracts are usually set for a certain amount of time. They can be renewed. They can also be ended before the time that was initially agreed on. I'm pretty sure every contract that I've ever had has that in there, that they can stop and end it, the relationship, whenever they want, and so can I. And last but not least, we're gonna get into training agreements. Okay, so if you are someone that loves to create trainings, workshops, vibes, anything like that, you may be given a training agreement, or you may actually be the one giving it to the institution or the establishment. This is normally called work for hire licensing agreements. Let's say you write up a 50-hour yoga teacher training module. And an institution wants you to run that training for their employees, okay? They love it, they like it, they need it. As the person who created it and will be offering it in an institution, in a space that's not yours, there are a few things that either you need to have in a contract to give to them, or be very clear and very diligent when reading the contract that they may have given to you. Once I create this training, who does it belong to? Now, of course, if this is a training you already have, it belongs to you. But if you're creating the training for the institution, or you're kind of like remixing something that you already have tailored to them, that is a question that needs to be asked. Once I create this, who does this belong to? Will this training be ran this one time with me, or do you plan on keeping this training and having maybe other facilitators teach it? Will I be the only person leading this training or this workshop for your business and institution, or are you interested in buying the training from me so that it can be a part of your evergreen library for new hires and things of that nature? Will my name remain attached to the work? And we just talked about that in the filming space, the virtual space. And what are the expectations around me leading this training and or this workshop elsewhere? You really got to get into the fine print with this contract specifically. This is your intellectual property, okay? This is your work, this is your creation. It literally takes nothing for someone to take a document that you sent over, kind of listing out what you plan to teach and teaching it themselves or giving it to someone else to teach. And yes, we don't want to think that. We always want to assume positive intent. But as a business owner, you also have to protect yourself. So what I will also say about this, again, in the contract they give you or the contract you create to give to them, you will not be sharing the information that you are teaching in this training or this workshop with them. We can have a meeting and we can discuss what I plan to teach. Of course, I want you to know that I'm gonna do the job. I wanna put you at ease, but I will not be sending over my material. I will not be sending over my teacher guide, none of that. But we can have a conversation so you know that I'm gonna do what you're hiring me to do. Secondly, do not record this training. You do not have permission to record this training to use it in the future. And that's just that. The folks who are in that training receive the information for that training, and that is where it begins and that is where it ends. The material that I am teaching to your organization, your institution, your company, whatever the case is, your yoga studio, that information belongs to me, and I will be teaching it elsewhere for other companies and other businesses. These terms and conditions in your contract really protects you. You should be fairly compensated for the things that you create and for the things that you create to be used over and over and over. And if you get a contract that does not have those things written into them, like I said, you can negotiate. You can reach back out and say, this looks great, however, I'd like to add X, Y, and Z. On the other end, if you're happy to create this for a specific business and you're happy to sell it over to them, and again, make sure that price point makes sense. They're going to be using it for who knows how long, 15, 20 years down the line. What does that mean to you? What is the value then of that workshop or of that program? Of course, it needs to make sense. And you have to be able to sleep at night once you sell it over to them at that price point. But I think the main thing is, can you feed yourself? Can you put food on your table? Can you afford your rent? Can this be a way of life for you? Okay? It just has to make sense. And when we get into the conversations of contracts, I have seen a lot of folks want the opportunity more than wanting to survive. And that won't end well, essentially. There are some things that you do have to bite the bullet for to get exposure, to get yourself out there. And I think you have to be very strategic with those things. But when you've been in the game for a while, you know your value, you know your worth, you know your creations have, what's the word I'm looking for? They have meaning, they are robust, they are good. You have to take care of yourself and you have to be smart, because no matter, at the end of the day, no matter what it is, this is a business. This is an industry that you are in now, okay? That's why I started off by saying, doesn't matter how nice or zen or welcoming or throwing around the term family folks are, they're still gonna hand you a contract, you're still gonna hand them a contract, and at the end of the day, we all need to be happy. We all need to make sure this makes sense. I hope this video was helpful. There are other contracts that are out there, and of course I have not touched on or talked about everything as it relates to contracts in the yoga wellness world industry, but what information I have shared today, I do hope it's helpful. I do hope it plants a few seeds. I do hope it pushes you to question and consider and take your time on contracts that you receive in the future. Please remember to like this video. Please remember to subscribe. And I'm always interested in more topics. So if there's something you are interested in knowing more about, leave it in the comments. And I promise I will get to it. I'll make a video about it so we can continue to share this information, continue to better prepare and support future yoga teachers, and to make sure that we can keep the wellness industry well. It's gonna take a lot, but I think we can do it. I'll see you in the next video, family. Bye.